All right, thank you, Giacomo. I want to ask a question to the audience. How many of you have used Electrum? Right, so that's basically everyone. Okay, so you probably know, I'll just turn on an example here. So this is a testnet on Electrum, and you might be wondering, how does it start up so fast when a full node takes ages to start up, while Electrum starts up straight away? You don't have to download anything or synchronize. And here we go, I'll just drag it over. So this is just an empty wallet I made. And the reason it starts up so fast is you can click here on the server, and it tells you you're actually connected to some servers. So these are some computers out there on the internet, and they're run by volunteers. And there's a whole list of them here. And your wallet will send its information to these servers. So all these addresses here, if I go to, they'll be sent to the servers, and the servers will send back transaction information. Oops. Does this work now?
Yeah, because when you turn your head toward the screen, it goes away a little bit.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so all these addresses will be sent to the servers, and they'll send back transaction information. And that's quite nice because it's very quick to start up, but it has a really bad side in that those servers can see all your information. They'll see a list of all these addresses. So if you receive money there, they'll know about it. If you send money, they'll know about it. And not only is it harmful for privacy, it's also harmful for security, in that those servers could lie to you. They could tell you that you've received money when you actually haven't. So they could, in the extreme case, they could print infinite bitcoins and send them to you, and you might give them real goods or services in return. So that's what Electrum Personal Server is about. It's a way of, instead of trusting some other server out there on the internet, it's connecting to your own server, which you control, which won't lie to you and won't spy on you. So this talk is essentially about installing that. So, right, so to do that, you go to the GitHub. Right, the screen resolution's a bit, but essentially there's, if you can also read all these in, I'm essentially following these, there's tutorials over here. So Raspberry Pi, Windows, and so on. I'm just going to do it on Windows because I think more people use Windows. So you essentially go to releases. I mean, I'm not going to do that. I downloaded it before. So it's over here. So the first thing I'll do is start up Bitcoin Core. So I'll do it on testnet, so it's a bit quicker. And then, right, probably should have done that a little bit before the talk. But I'll tell you a bit about the features of the server while this is starting up, in that it's compatible with all the resource-saving features of a Bitcoin node. So you can enable pruning, which means even though you have to download the entire 200 gigabyte blockchain, you can delete it from your disk afterwards. So you'll only use a maximum 2 or 3 gigabytes. You can also use blocks only, which is where you don't download unconfirmed transactions, but only full blocks. And that saves a lot of bandwidth. You end up using only about 150 megabytes per day, which is not very much at all. You could also connect this node to a Blockstream satellite and actually receive blocks from space, and then run Electrum Personal Server and therefore run Electrum. And then you could use the Bitcoin without using the internet. Other nice things about Electrum is it has many features. So most people use it because they connect it to their hardware wallets. It's quite easy to code for Electrum, and essentially all hardware wallets support Electrum. And therefore, this whole setup provides a way to have your coins on a hardware wallet that's connected to your full node. Therefore, you'd have all the full privacy features and the full security features of that. Yeah, so just while that's happening, I'll just do a quick thing. So on Windows, you can add command line arguments to this. So one over here, I've done testnet, which is to make it testnet. There's another line you can add, which I'm just going to tell you now. One's called one server. And what that does is it means you only connect to one Electrum server at a time. By default, it connects to about 5 or 6. And another thing I'm going to do is write server and tell it to connect to localhost, i.e. my own computer. And you do that in this way. So you don't have to, this is all in the tutorial if you want to do it yourself. Right. Okay, so the node's up. Just going to put it there. Maybe a bit like this. Right, so now I'm going to turn on Electrum, and I've got some wallets I've prepared beforehand, which have some transactions on them. Oops, where's the mouse? There it is. Excuse me 1 second. Now, because I had that line of one server and localhost server, it's now not going to connect to anything. And when you, for example, if you first set up your hardware wallet, you should do that beforehand, because it will stop Electrum doxing you. It will stop it telling all your hardware wallet addresses to some random server out there. So this red button here means it's not connected to anything. So I'm going to very quickly create 2 wallets. So they won't be hardware wallets, but they'll be just wallets I made a bit earlier. So this one will be called single sig wallet. Standard, and I already have a seed. Oops, there we go. Right. So it's testnet. I don't mind too much if you steal it from me. Sorry, there we go. Okay, that's over there. I'll just make another one, which is multi-sig. And if you're using a hardware wallet, you could use this. Although some people use multi-signature wallets, as you could have half your wallet on a smartphone and half on a desktop, and both have to be hacked for you to lose money. And yeah, this, and then I give the cosigner key. So I'm just using copy and paste, like Control-C, Control-V, that's why they're appearing so quickly. Right, so single sig, and then multi-sig's over here. So then what I'll do is actually install the server. So earlier I downloaded it. It's from that GitHub. I'm just going to very quickly extract. The same directory. There we go. Right, then I'll so for this you have to install Python 3. I'll just show you. I won't download it because of the internet, but it's essentially this website, and you press that and download it. Then you for installing EPS, you go to that same directory. This I just extracted. Right, and in there. So on Windows, I think you can use, if you hold down the Shift key and right click, you can very quickly get this to open the command line. So to install it, you need the command line, but it's not too many commands. So the line is this one, which is again in the tutorial. Install, excuse me, 1 second, it's this. Yeah, and that essentially installs it on your computer. There we go, and that's finished. And then what you have to do is, in Windows, it puts the files in an inconvenient place and doesn't add them to the path. So what you do in the sort of the way of installing on Windows right now is go here, and here is the Electrum server. So we're going to take those, and to give them command lines, you again need to make shortcuts. Oops, excuse me. So I'll go back to here and do right click, paste shortcut. So whoops, excuse me. Right, so you have to tell it which configuration file you're going to use. So there is this one. I'm just going to rename it, or rather copy it and yeah, so this is where you tell information about how to connect to your Bitcoin node and what your wallets are. So it's just here on the other screen. Don't be too scared, it's quite easy to read that every line that starts with these hash symbols is a comment, and you read it like a normal, like something else, and there's instructions there. So what we're going to do is go back to our Electrum. We're going to add both our wallets we made, the single sig and the multi-sig. So here's single sig. What you do, you just go to wallet information, and you get this master public key, and you take that, put it there, single sig wallet. You can use any name, and I'm also going to add multi-sig wallet. Now for multi-sigs, it needs all the keys that you have and the number of required signers. So in our case, it's a 2 of 2 multi-sig. So I'm going to write the number 2, and then get the 2 public keys. There's the multi-sig wallet. So there's 2 cosigner, like 2 master public keys. I'll take one, add it here, and take the other one. There we go. And then you need to tell which directory your Bitcoin Core is installed in, and it will use that to get enough information to connect to it. So in my case, that directory is, excuse me 1 second, I've just got it here ready to copy paste. It's over there. And then, because it's just for testnet, you add a 1 here that uses a different port. And then to make this a bit faster to go, there's this initial import count, which is just a technical detail, but to make it a little bit faster for this presentation, I'll reduce that number to make it 50. Now, then, what I'm going to do is close that and reduce these and go to the EPS place. Right, so now when I run this for the first time, there's one last thing. I need to tell it where the configuration file is. So I'll take this path. I want to tell it the full path, including that configuration file. And that works this way. That you go here, in the same place where you add command line arguments, you add that, and then I'll write config.cfg. I'll do the same for rescan, because that will be needed in a second. Right, so the first time I run this, it's going to import all the addresses into Bitcoin Core. So I'll do that now. Right, this is what's happening. And it gives you the first 3 addresses of each wallet, and you can use that to check whether you've imported the right wallet. Some people will make a mistake. And if we actually look here, it's the watch-only addresses part just was added. So there's a little progress bar. And while that's going on, it shouldn't take too long, but I'll tell you a bit about some other things. So I've been using this Bitcoin Core GUI. A lot of people, you don't have to do that. You can also just run as the command line version, so you don't have it cluttering up your desktop. And it's also quite important with the server. It's called the Electrum Personal Server, in that only you should be connecting to it. So it only watches your wallets, only your addresses, and it doesn't watch all the addresses on the entire blockchain. And it means if someone else were to connect to your server, they could conceivably figure out what your addresses are. So this should only be used either running on the same computer as your Electrum, or running on another computer that only you can connect to, that maybe is in your own home, or maybe protected with a VPN. Okay, so this is about to finish. Right, so now the addresses are imported, but there's no transactions there. So what we need to do is to rescan the blockchain. We're going to do that with this script here. Oops, excuse me. just appeared over here, and it gives you this dialog. So it says, what is the earliest wallet transaction? Where should it start rescanning from? So I prepared these wallets specially, and they happen to be created on the 2nd of April, 2019. And it's actually a good idea to, when you write down your 12 words, to also write down the date, or roughly remember when you created it, because it can help in situations like this. So I'll just press that, and then it suggests to scan from here. I'll say yes, and then that's happening. So it gives us a little progress bar, and this should be quite quick because it's only like 3 days. But you only ever need to do this once when you're first installing it. Once you've done all this importing and rescanning once, you never need to do it again. You can even have pruning and all the other resource saving things. So it's just a bit annoying now to start up, but once you do it, it's quite quick. So now Core has loads of transactions, so it's just found them. So it rescans. So what I'm going to do is then this thing, I'll run Electrum Personal Server, and it's just over there. So now it's printed out those 3 wallets again, and it will just take a few seconds to start up. And now it says this message, listing for Electrum wallet on that IP address, which just means localhost. So what I'm going to do is then start up Electrum. Oops, excuse me. Oh yeah, there we go. So it just connected again, and here are these transactions. And I'll also start up the multi-sig wallet. There we go. That's over there. That also has its own transactions. And that's essentially all there is to it. It works the same way as any other Electrum wallet, so Electrum server rather. So one thing I'll do is I'll get this address and send from one wallet to another. Put it there, press max. Yeah, it's testnet. And it sends that, and then in a couple of seconds, yeah, it appears in the history. And after some time, it will have its own confirmations and everything like that. And I mean, it behaves the same way as any other Electrum wallet, but you have all the advantages of connecting to your own full node. And you can tell it really is connected, because here in the console, you have a couple of stats about your full node, download and upload and that kind of thing. And here it will actually say the only server it's connected to is the one running on your computer, and none of the other ones. And because we use those command lines, if you remember right at the beginning, one server and server, it will actually disable this thing, this dialog. You can't accidentally connect to some other server. And that's all there is to it. I don't know if I've been, I think I've been a bit early, but there's about 10 minutes left. So if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, if anyone has a question, come up to the mic. Yep, give it a second.
Okay. Yep. When multi-threading?
Yes.
When multi-threading? So it's single-threaded right now, yeah?
So I didn't understand the hit. When is the...
ask right into the mic.
Multi-threading.
Multi-threading, yeah. EPS is right now single-threaded, so it can only accept one client at a time. The question is when multi-threading?
It will be when so the question was about Electrum Personal Server can only accept one connection at a time. So for example, if you have a wallet on your smartphone and your desktop, they can't both connect at once. And that is, in principle, wouldn't even be very hard. You just either me or someone else has to recode Electrum Personal Server a bit to accept more than one connection. And when would that happen? I don't know, when I or someone else do it. Pull request accepted, I suppose.
Are you looking into making a PR for it now?
Sorry?
I will look into making a PR for it now.
Any PR? Oh, that you'll be looking, yeah, thank you.
All right, anyone else? Come on up. I'll just give you mine.
Yeah, just could you expound a bit on Tor? Like, for example, I don't necessarily want to run it on the same machine as my Electrum wallet. It could be used to hidden services. Does everything work fine like that?
Yes, it works fine. That the Electrum protocol is not it doesn't use many, it doesn't require much bandwidth. So it just sends a list of its own addresses and gets all the transactions back. And that is totally possible to do over a Tor hidden service. But you have to make sure that no one else can connect to that hidden service. So either keep your onion a secret, or you can connect over SSH and make a tunnel. And both those ways will work, and that works fine. That's actually what I do.
All right, we got another question?
So I haven't used it in a while, but I know that Electrum works on Android as well.
Yeah.
As you probably have heard, in the last couple of days, we also have Bitcoin Core running on Android now.
Yeah.
So, any plan for EPS running on Android?
Yeah, that would be really wonderful. I think there's one thing I forgot to show, and is the CPU and the RAM usage for Electrum Personal Server, which is basically 0. So I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work. And yeah, it would be a great idea. I haven't done it myself yet. But
cool.
It's a good idea. Thanks.
All right.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.